It's DeafRowe, and I'm back with another review. And as you can see, it's still not quite human. The last movie in the trilogy series, based on a six book novel series, done by Disney in the later '80s, early '90s. Still not quite human is the third movie in the trilogy, and the last movie, starring Alan Thicke and Jay Underwood as the main character, Chip. But before I get started, please hit that notification bell, hit that like and subscribe, and we'll get on with this review, shall we? Still not quite human. The date on this one would be 1992. Is a made-for-TV movie done by Disney, of course, and for like I said in the last two reviews, this is not available on Disney Plus to my knowledge right now. Maybe they'll do it in the future. Never know. Still quite a lot of good stuff out there that was made for TV movies that Disney did that is not on Disney Plus. In my opinion, it'd be better if they did put it out there because some of the stuff they're making now is crap. So, let's get going on Still Not Quite Human. And of course, we start off, we don't have Robin Lively back in this one as Becky, but she is asked about at the beginning of the movie when they're, talking about the stuff that they're doing. And the mail arrives, and you can see Chip is using his magnetic finger to get it from the dog by dragging him to him with a leash or collar or whatever. And it's basically inviting Chip's dad, played by Alan Thicke here, Dr. Carson, to a convention on robotics where he will be giving a speech of some sort based on his invention of the chip that goes into an android. And that's where all the hilarity ensues from there on. And like I said, Becky is not in this third movie, which was played by Robin Lively, but she is mentioned at the beginning, like she's off to college somewhere or something like that, basically. So, anyway, so it's just Chip and Dr. Carson at this point. Don't know what happened from, the love interest from the second movie for both of them. They might just be on vacation somewhere for all I know. But anyway, we just get these two guys in this movie, not the other supporting cast. And they go to the convention. Of course, they got to take the airport. And the airport proves to be a little bit of a problem for Chip being an android and everything. So he just uses his finger to get through the radar detector right here. As you can see, his magnetic finger, he uses it to point up at the thing and make it not go off. So, yeah, there you go. So he gets through the detector there so they can get on the plane to go to the convention. And of course, they get to the convention and he's, displaying this chip right here that he puts in this prototype robot that's not, it's like in the shape of a heart. It's basically like the main program chip that makes the android possible. Without it, nothing else works. And of course, Chip is watching his dad do all this in the audience, and the robot completely fails on the stage. And of course, there's a heckler in the audience who's like, "Well, if you have no proof that you've actually created an android, why are you up here doing all this and all this other stuff?" It's like, I do have proof. I just I don't have it here with me right now. And all this other stuff, and he was almost about to point out Chip in the crowd, but the thing about Chip is he doesn't want here's the heckler here. He doesn't want people to know that Chip is an android. Like, he legitimately wants Chip to live a normal life as almost like a human, so he doesn't point him out at any point in this to tell everybody he's an android. And in this third movie, in actuality, he's acted more human than any of the other two movies. So it's quite interesting as well. And then, of course, we cut to the main bad guy. There we go. Let's go back there. So if I get back there. this guy here. And he's the one that is basically after the chip that Dr. Carson has created. Because he is also he's building androids himself, but he wants to use them for military purposes. And the character is played by Christopher Neame and is Dr. Frederick Begaron, or I don't know if I'm saying that right. Whatever. Anyway, so he's wanting the chip, and so he sends his henchmen after Dr. Carson to get the chip away from him. Let's see. And we cut to that little area there. Yeah, here's the henchman, or the butler, or whatever. You got Dr. Carson tied up in the chair, and he was searching the room. He finds the chip right here, as you can see, and he's about to take off with it. And then Dr. Carson does this right here, knocks out of his hand, gets the chair back up, and then stomps it. So by doing that, the henchman has no choice but to kidnap him. And so the henchman pretty much kidnaps him, takes him back to that castle, whatever, where that dude was smoking a pipe that I just showed you, the other Dr. Frederick. I'll just call him Dr. Frederick because I can't say that last name right. And this dude, he's just a regular pickpocketer that somehow got in the hotel, and he ends up befriending Chip and helping him along the way. And this cop as well. The cop is chasing the pickpocketer, and the pickpocketer decides to help Chip out instead of trying to keep picking pockets because he thinks that the can make something of this. Well, when Chip gets back, he realizes his dad's acting weird, by the way. And like I said, this Dr. Frederick has been creating androids, but he hasn't created an android like Dr. Carson. That's the reason he wanted that chip. He wanted that chip so he could put it in his androids that he's already created for military purposes. And so he sends an android to replace Dr. Carson in the hotel room. But Chip notices something's off because he's not acting correct, and like the way he just like ends up drinking his coffee, for example, it's just insane. It's piping hot coffee, and he just like chugs it down all the way down. Like, nope, you don't drink it that hot that fast. So Chip's like, yeah, something's not right with you. And so, yeah, so Chip figures out that he's an android sent by the bad guy. But he opens up his chest and sees and pulls the plug on it, turn him off. And realizes it's like a base model android. Like it can't do much of anything but other than what you program it to do. Almost like really more like a robot and not really like an android because it wasn't thinking for itself. It was just doing what it was programmed to do. Anyway, so Dr. Carson wakes up in his jail cell, which ends up being like this white room with big bright white lights and everything, and they're monitoring and everything. And Dr. Frederick sends a robot of himself in there to play with his head a little bit. And it gets in a tussle with him. Let's go back and see if I can get that part right there. Yeah, it gets in a tussle with him here. And see if I can get to the right spot. Yeah, right here. Like he knocks him down and thinks he's going to try to escape. And then, yeah, that's when old dude's like, yeah, not everything is what it seems. That was just another android that I sent in there to mess with you. And he's up there in his comfy chair just watching everything on a monitor. Anyway, now we're back over there with Chip and what's his face, the burglar dude, and Chip is trying to reprogram the robot pretty much, or the android, in order to get answers out of him. But when he does reprogram him, he erases all his memories, so he's having to. So he can't really tell him where his dad is or anything like that. So Chip just decides to use him, and starts giving him commands and different things to follow and that kind of thing, trying to make him learn a little bit along the way. Anyway, so they start, I think they call him Bonus or Bogus. I can't remember exactly. I watched this just recently, and I don't know why I can't remember that. Anyway, they give him a nickname so they won't get him confused with his dad, Dr. Carson. Plus, he doesn't act like Dr. Carson, so that kind of helps a little bit with the nickname. Anyway, the thief dude just sticks around because he thinks he can make some money off of this android business or his robot or whatever. So he decides to help Chip try to find his dad so they can get the money from the android or whatever. Anyway, so they take the android with them and they're trying to track down where his dad is. They figure out where his dad is, but then they can't get in. So then that's when they decide, hey, we need some help. So they call the cop lady that they saw earlier that was trying to chase down the thief and decide to get her help. She's going to help them figure this out. Of course, Bonus or Bogus, whatever his name is, keeps screwing things up, taking everything quite literal, like almost like a throwback to Chip from the first movie, Still Not Quite Human, or Still Not, from the first movie, Not Quite Human, is almost exactly like that. Like he's taking everything literal and everything like that, and he keeps screwing things up and breaking things and that kind of thing. Anyway, she comes in. She's like, how can you prove to me this is not your dad or whatever? And they just said, like, knock on his head. It's metal. And so she does that. She's like, oh, okay, this is getting weird. So then she agrees to help them figure out a way to get into that castle that the Dr. Frederick is in. But she wants to do it legally, in a legal way. So she asked for the help of her aunt Mildred, which is played by Bexy Palmer, and she basically gives them makes up a character for each of them to play so they can get into this castle, and then she's going to send a notice ahead of them saying that these are some rich folks that I know, you need to let them in or whatever. And this is the aunt of the police officer, and it's Officer Kate Morgan, played by Rosa Nevin. So Officer Kate, this is her aunt, and she helps them get into that castle, but she's like all over the robot version of Dr. Carson here throughout this whole thing, and she takes everything he says as if he's flirting with her, but he's not really not. He's just kind of being literal about everything. Kind of funny. And so yeah, she gets them all dressed up, makes them look fancy, and tries to make them understand how to act rich and how to act like nothing is important to them and all this other stuff. Chip goes along with it pretty well, almost to the point where you can't tell Chip is actually an android anymore in this movie. There's a couple hang-ups where he like forget that he's trying to act a certain way, and he's like, "Oh yeah," and then, he'll go back to. But Jay Underwood's a pretty damn good actor in this movie. I'll be honest with you. He's pretty impressive the way he plays this off in these three movies. He goes from being like a literal, almost robot in the first movie, and by the time you get to this third movie and through the second movie, it becomes more and more human, but it's just like that gradual, step towards more human that he does for each movie is damn good acting, I have to say. So here we are, the night before or whatever, and we're gonna get set up. They got to plug in Bonus here, so he can charge back up. And in this movie, you don't see. I don't think you see at any point does Chip have to plug in and charge up because he has that new chip that Dr. Carson has created. So he doesn't need to plug in like these older versions do, and that's the reason that this Dr. Frederick wants that chip is so he can create his soldiers so they don't have to plug in all the time. So they use Bonus as a chauffeur and take this big, nice, fancy old version of a limo to the castle, and then, of course, they make their way in. And it's not long before, the gig is up and they're being chased throughout the building and everything. And then finally, Chip sees Dr. Frederick go down a secret passage using a chessboard to get in there, as you can see right here. And then, so Chip tries to figure out the chess himself so he can get in there. As you see right here, he uses the chessboard to open up a door to get down to the area where he's keeping Chip's dad or whatever. And Chip figures it out, the code as well, obviously, because, he's an android. Anyway, the other two get in the car and they're trying to get away, and they can't get away. And so they get in the car and, they make their escape into the car, and Bonus is there. And Bonus is like, why can't we leave? Well, these people are trying to stop us from leaving. And said, do you want me to stop them? And he's like, yeah, stop them. So Bonus gets out and he starts messing with them. And then, boom, 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 and it breaks all their guns. That's kind of funny. And so he takes out all the security to help them escape. And then that's where Chip finds his dad. Chip tries to get him out, and then that's when Dr. Frederick sends one of his military robots after him. And Chip gets in a fight with him, and their strength is about equal because they're both androids, obviously. But Chip has more brains and ingenuity, and he can think on his feet, basically, which the robot can't do, and he's able to best them and win, obviously. And that's when Dr. Frederick figures out that Chip is the android that Dr. Carson had created that is near perfect. And Dr. Frederick's like, I'm going to rip you apart and analyze every little piece of you just so I can make my own or whatever. And then that's when Chip throws him into the pond. Right here. Into the pond. It's like, no, you're not. Anyway, so then police officers arrive and they arrest Dr. Frederick and all the henchmen and stuff who are kidnapping Dr. Carson. Because, like I said, they have Officer Kate Morgan with them as well, so she's seen everything and is able to tell all the officers everything. How convenient. And towards the end, they still they say bye to everybody and whatever. And the Aunt Mildred comes by. And she's like, no, you're not going to take him with you. He's going with me, or whatever. And so she takes Bonus with her. Right here. And then that's the end of the movie. And end of the series. Pretty cool stuff, in my opinion. Now, I would give this one a definite... this is definitely a 3-star. It's a higher 3-star than the first movie. Second movie is probably my favorite, so I would say the second movie is a higher 3-star than this one. This one's kind of mid-3. Just say, I don't know what percentage-wise. I'm going by the critic list here, okay? So check out my critic list score, and you can see percentage-wise exactly what I'm talking about when I give these a 3 stars, and they're ranging different 3s. So that's about it. That would be my review, and if you please hit that like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can see when I do another review. And check me out on DeafRowe TV, which is where I'll be posting these videos from now on, because a certain company decided to nerf my other channel to a certain degree, so I'm taking my DeafRowe TV back. And that is me, DeafRowe, out.